Do you remember this version of that art? Or can you recall the fact that board time used to be a crutch perk that simply had to be run? This kind of piece is a collaboration and belongs to one of two videos that I and the creator Sashko have created. In my video we look at DBD perks that went from amazing to awful. Mettle of Man is a unique perk of Ash. Nowadays, the perk is barely played, arguably the perk may even be entirely forgotten. I wouldn't blame newer players if they have never heard of this perk and therefore don't even know what it does. Yeah, in my opinion it is really that unimportant. Mettle of Man is too niche in order to be useful in a greater scale. Right now it prevents you from going to the dying state after you've activated it. Activating it, however, is just pain in the ass. You don't believe me? Listen to this. You need three protection hits in order for the perk to activate. So in order to use this perk, you have to get, let me say it again because I like saying things 2 to 3 times, 3 protection hits. Once more, 3 protection hits. That means that you have to sacrifice pretty much your whole game just to get the slight benefit. Simply put, not worth it whatsoever. When Ash joined the realm and Mettle of Man was released, the perk didn't need protection hits in order to activate. Oh no, it needed just normal basic attacks. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the definition of unhealthy. Being hit 3 times in a time where medkits, self-heals and other perks like self-care were utterly strong really made Mettle of Man one of the strongest perks to ever exist in DBD. Wait, did I just mention self-care? This perk is... How do I say it in a good way? It was something else. Wow, that's a way of really saying nothing. Anyway, self-care used to be the healing perk in the game. It was awesome for beginners as they didn't need a medkit and could, in theory, play their own game while figuring out everything that game has to offer. That's how I started playing the game. On the other hand, it also was extremely strong. Healing yourself is something that goes a long way and actually used to be in a state which was simply unfair for the killer side. Syringes, for instance, at one point fully healed you right on the spot. So it kinda makes sense that self-care was also busted AF. The release date of Claudette's perk was horrendous. First of all, it healed you at a speed of 80%, which already is insane, but it also increased the medkit efficiency by... Wait, what's my script here? 100%? Revolting. Simply revolting. It stayed away until patch 1.70 where it was actually nerfed heavily. The healing speed was nerfed from 80 to 50% and the medkit efficiency was lowered from 100 to 20%. For the most part now the perk seemed in a good spot, but it was heavily overused. And the answer to the perk being overused, well, was a drastic nerf that had to happen in patch 6.1.0. Get used to hearing that a lot. The item efficiency got removed entirely and the perk now healed you at a whopping 35% instead of the former 50%. The perk dropped from 17% to reach its lowest ever recorded usage in April 2024 with 5.8.3%. Self-care won't ever vanish entirely as it's a base perk, meaning that new players will always have access to it. Nevertheless, it is shy from what it used to be. Many people, especially newer players, might not be aware of how strong Will Make It used to be. Nowadays, the perk is absolutely fine, and the more I think about it, I would actually call it balanced. It's situational, but if put to use, rather strong and definitely serves its purpose. The perk activates after an unhook has occurred, and then it grants you a 100% speed increase to healing actions for up to 90 seconds. The current state, as aforementioned, absolutely fine. However, for a very short period, the perk used to be overpowered as hell. Back in the day, or even to be more specific, when the game released, each unhook action was rewarded with an additional 100% speed increase up to 300%. So after 3 unhooks, you, as a survivor, were able to heal your mates with the speed of light. And to put salt into the wound, the perk was activated for 2 minutes instead of just 90 seconds, which, believe it or not, makes a huge difference. Luckily, Will Make It got nerfed after just 2 months after the game's release and was patched into the state we all know and love it today. And trust me, it definitely was the right decision because, oh my god, imagine 300% heal increase. Jesus Christ. Let's face it, we all have waited for this, haven't we? So let's tackle it then. David King's Deadite is a perk that used to be on top of the world. Back in 2022, when I picked up the game for the first time, everyone ran that perk. The stats even backed this fact up to 47%, what a ridiculous number, of all players were bringing this perk into the trial, and therefore definitely caused a meta that, by many, was considered as stuck and non-moving as never before. Arguably, the aforementioned 6.1.0 patch, which you will continue to hear about, can be seen as the developer's response to exactly that realization. Perk was intended to be nothing more than a simple dash forwards. You could use it when you're injured and get yourself to the next pellet in another window or whatever you freaking pleased. The main underlying issue with this perk were two things. A, even if this perk served no purpose in getting somewhere desirable, it still extended the chase sometimes up to 7 seconds, which is a problem. That too was soon to be understood, and believe me, 4 times, 2 times, 7 times is not only 56 seconds, but actually the best case scenario, which in itself does not need a further explanation. I do think that we can all agree on that. And the other main issue was the fact that this perk was available right from the start. For you see, this perk was overpowered as heck. Just the fact that the best case scenario loses the kill at 56 seconds is nuts. And this is not something that I see through the lens of a salty killer main, but rather something that was actually the real hard and tough experience. The first injure of the match made this perk activate, and this was absolutely problematic, as the perk was available right from the start. To add to this, yes, we're not finished here, Deadite while stashing forward actually granted you an invincible frame. So even when trapped in a corner, you could use this perk and cost the killer time by dodging an attack. To be fair though, this always looked kinda ridiculous and funny, and yes, you could also dodge Trapper's traps, as if the killer needed a nerf. Patch 6.1 then came around and changed a lot about it. The dash forward was changed. Now you don't get a speed boost just because, but the endurance dice effect for 0.5 seconds after using the perk. This, if the killer hits you, not only prevents it from going down, but further actually then grants you the speed boost the perk once gave you for free. You could say that the patch changed the whole perk for good, but as aforementioned, there was still one tiny detail that needed to be addressed. The availability. It took behavior an additional 9 months to also tackle this problem. Starting with patch 6.70, Deadite now only activated after you have just been unhooked or unhooked someone. Now this perk needs some real dedication to be used right and is not as ever present as before. However, I do think that it's noteworthy that the perk is slowly climbing the ladders, and it's currently the 8th most played perk on the Survivor side. Borrowed Time could be a controversial entry because it didn't really get nerfed at all, but we still need to look at its downfall, as it's truly been one of a kind. Back in the day, the way unhooks worked a bit different. First of all, hard camping wasn't punished at all. As killer, you could stay in close proximity without having any negative drawback. Second, the base kit endurance status effect the unhooked person receives right now was not base kit. This perk back in its heyday was seen as an essential tool you needed in order to even be allowed to unhook. Why? Because it granted the unhooked person the endurance status effect for 10 seconds. This, for the most part, prevented easy turns and allowed survivors to plan the next strike when someone was just being tunneled after the unhook. I can distinctly remember being yelled at numerous times for doing risky unhooks without having BT equipped. Yes, there really was a time where only the players having this perk equipped were allowed to unhook. On BT's peak, up to 41% of players decided to bring it into the trial. The downfall of this perk happened with the infamous 6.1.0 patch on July 19, 2022. This patch brought a lot of changes, not only regarding a significant amount of perks, but also general quality of life updates, such as the aforementioned base kit endurance effect for the unhooked person. So you could say that BT was made base kit. Heck, even the developers said this exact thing in the patch notes. BT nowadays is barely if ever played. This perk may not have been nerfed, but its usage rate was utterly demolished by a quality of life change that was more than overdue.
Object of Obsession is a low-risk throat perk that seems pretty outdated if you ask me. The perk didn't get nerfed or changed recently, but the addition of perks like Fogwise or the growing popularity of Alert, for instance, make this perk fall flat in many aspects. It was simply just nerve-wracking for the killer site when it was released alongside the Halloween chapter in October of 2016. Right now, Object works like this. Whenever the killer reads your aura, you will automatically be able to see their aura too. On top of that, you can also see the killer's aura every 30 seconds for 3 seconds, but because of the first effect, this means that you will basically reveal your aura to the killer, but are given the slight benefit of knowledge when to look in the killer's direction to see where they are. Until patch 4.7.0, Object was also a perk that revolved around aura reading, however it was granted in a different manner. When outside the killer's terror radius for a range up to 72 meters, you and the killer's aura were revealed to one another. Now, this on its own doesn't seem that big of a deal, until you look at two prominent examples, which will pretty quickly make you reconsider your thoughts about this perk. First, imagine this: you're a trapper player setting up your traps at the shack. Then you turn around and see an aura across the entire map with someone teabagging you. Wouldn't you find that insanely frustrating? Or what about this? As I already said, the perk only works outside the terror radius. So envision yourself being a killer, like Freddy, who doesn't even have a terror radius when you're asleep. So yes, you link each other's auras constantly then, but where exactly is the benefit for the killer here? Oh yeah, right, there is none. Combine this with strong chase perks, for example Resilience, and well, you are basically uncatchable. Luckily, this was the only perk that the Halloween chapter brought to DBD that was problematic, right?
Decisive Strike, if you really think about it, is a very reasonable perk. In the current meta, it serves as an anti-tunneling perk, and that's pretty awesome if you ask me. For up to 60 seconds after an unhook, you're allowed to hit a difficult skill check if the killer has downed and picked you up to free yourself from the killer's grasp. Once after that, the perk deactivates, never to be seen again. The S, however, underwent many changes throughout the years, and well, outlining every single one of them would be a stretch that is beyond reasonable for what we're trying to achieve here. There are only two things that you really need to know. A, the perk stuns the killer for now 5 seconds, which used to be 3 seconds but soon will become 4 seconds. Okay. And B, that the required unhook also wasn't always a thing. Wait, what? Yeah, when the perk initially released, it hasn't had any requirements whatsoever. It worked the same way as nowadays, but with the slight difference that it always activated when the killer picked you up. This, well, what a surprise, led to a state where every survivor brought their ass into a trial and abused it as much as they could. This was the case from patch 1.2.1 all the way to patch 1.4.0. Then the perk in a weird way shifted a weird way. It worked the same as Power Struggle, but you didn't need a pallet, so that was a thing. And to add to everything that I have just said, the trailer shows us this. What in the bloody hell is this? If someone would have ever missed this skill check, I would have actually sent him to the doctors, not gonna lie. Anyhow, I don't know whether this was just the state which was shown in the trailer or the actual release date. If someone could confirm this, that'd actually be nice. Oh boy, where do I start here? Boon's got introduced to the game with the addition of Michaela. Circular Feeling and Shadow Step were the first ones to get at it. Circular is remarked as one of the strongest Boon perks to exist. Even in its now watered down version, it is still seen as the superior Boon perk, which, let's face it, says a lot about the quality of the other ones. Boons have to be set up. Go to a totem, bless it, and until the killer snuffs it, that blessed totem gives you the effect of the perk. Circular Feeling, when it was released in patch 5.3.0, granted you a 100% speed increase to healing. And oh boy, it didn't stop there. It also unlocked the self-care action, which allowed you to heal yourself without a medkit, and that was truly problematic. The developers saw this as well, and here it gets slightly strange. 3 months after its release, Circular Feeling speed increase got lowered by 25%, and another 3 months later, it was again lowered by another 25%. However, during that time, the perk was able to recover from a small drop in pick rate percentages, but was able to recover even stronger than before in a much weaker state. The true downfall, and basically the point where this perk lost most of its usage, was when it decided to rebuff the healing speed increase to 100%, but therefore stripped the survivors of the possibility to self-care themselves without a medkit. The perk dropped from 20% all the way down to 3%, where it remains to this very day. And this one rounds up this video. This one was a collaboration with the content creator Sashko, who has also published a video. He covers the contrary, perks that once were utter trash, but now are absolutely busted. Link first in the description. And with that being said,